Hey, so you must be watching this video because you were absent, or you just needed a little bit of extra help with the monster elimination, okay? So what we did for monster elimination was we are graphing the function y equals the square root of x, okay? If I make a table of values, so if I make an xy chart, right? First of all, you can't put any negative x values in because if you do the square root of a negative number, you're going to get an imaginary number, and that's not going to show up on our real axis, right? So no negatives, okay? But you can do the square root of 0. If I put a 0 in here, the square root of 0 is 0. So I have a point, a starting point at the origin, okay? That's my starting point or ending point, however you want to look at it. Then I can do any other numbers that I want, right? I can do 1, 2, 3, but let's see what happens when I do that, okay? So when I do that and I get the square root of 1, I'm going to get a 1. So I have a point at 1, 1. When I put in a 2, I'm going to get the square root of 2, which is a decimal. It's not a nice, pretty number, so I don't think I want to plot that, okay? If I did the square root of 3, I'm going to get another decimal kind of weird number, and I don't think I want to do that one either. So let's do the number 4. Okay, if I put this in here, I can do the square root of 4. I'm going to get a 2, right? So I have a point at 4, 2. The next time I'm going to have a nice, pretty point is at 9, because the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so I can go all the way up to 9, and I'm going to have a point up here at 3. So square root functions actually look like this, okay? If I were to graph the other side of it, okay, and it went this way, it would look like an x squared function or parabola, and that's the opposite of the squared, right? Square root and squared are opposites of each other. So what we did and what you need to kind of take note about is that when you are doing square roots, you want to use these magic x values, 0, 1, 4, 9. You could keep going and you could do, 16, 25, 36, and so on and so forth, right? But we want to use, like I said, these pretty numbers, okay? Okay, so what gets hairy is that when you are looking at the monster elimination paper, right, they're not just the square root of x. Now all of a sudden there's other stuff going on, okay? And so what you want to do and what you want to look for is you want underneath the radical sign, whatever is underneath there, anything that's underneath this radical sign, you want that to equal these special numbers. Okay, you want this to equal the 0, the 1, the 4, the 9, the 16, because you can take the square root of those numbers. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to make a chart, an XY chart, okay, but we're going to start with what's under the radical sign, and we're going to set it equal to these numbers, okay? So I'm going to take x plus 13 and set it equal to 0. When I do that, I get a negative 13. So my first x number that I want to plug in is negative 13, okay? Then I want x plus 13 to equal 1. When I do that, I get a negative 12. Then I want the x plus 13 to equal 4, because again, when I do that, right, I can take the square root of 4, okay? So when I do this, I get a negative 9, and again, if I plug it in, negative 9 plus 13 is 4, and the square root of 4 is something that I can do nicely, okay? So that's exactly what we're going to do right now to go get the y values. We're going to plug these x numbers in, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. You get a different writing utensil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do negative 13 plus 13. Okay, well, that's a 0. I'm going to square root that. That's a 0. And then I'm going to add 11 because that's what is in the equation. So 0 plus 11 is 11. Okay, then I'm going to go plug in the negative 12. So negative 12 plus 13, that's 1. The square root of 1 is 1, plus that 11 makes 12. Okay, let's do it again. Negative 9 plus 13, that's 4. The square root of 4 is 2. Plus 11 makes 13. And then on your monster elimination paper, you're just going to plot these points and see if you can cross through a monster. Okay? All right, so we're going to do it one more time. So letter B on the monster elimination paper, this is the equation or the square root function that we're going to graph. So let's go make the table. So when you turn this paper in, the table is what I care about. I don't really care about the monsters. The monsters are just there to help you check your answer to make sure that you have gotten the right points and you're at least hitting a monster at some point, okay, or at some place. But let's go do this. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is set whatever's underneath my radical sign equal to those special numbers, okay? So I'm going to take x plus 12 and set it equal to 0. I'm going to set it equal to 1. I'm going to set it equal to 4. And I'm going to go ahead and set it equal to 9 as well. Okay, because again, these are the square roots that I can do nicely. Okay, so let's do the first one. When I set it equal to 0, I get negative 12. When I set it equal to 1 and I subtract 12 on both sides, I get negative 11. Subtract 12, I'm going to get negative 8. And then negative 3. So those are the x values that we're now going to go plug in. So let's go do that. I'm going to plug this in. So negative 12 plus 12 is 0. I'm going to square root that and get 0. Then I'm going to do this negative sign. So now I'm looking at a negative 0, right? Minus 9, negative 9. Let's do negative 11. When I put in a negative 11 plus 12, I get 1. I square root that and get a 1. I put this negative in front of it, so now I'm at negative 1. Minus 9 makes negative 10. Okay, let's go do negative 8. So negative 8 plus 12 is 4. Square root is 2. So now I've got negative 2 minus 9, negative 11. If you look at the pattern, I'm thinking this is a negative 12, right? Negative 9, 10, 11, I'm thinking that's a negative 12. Let's go double check it. So when I put in a negative 3, I have negative 3 plus 12. That's 9. Square root of that is 3. Put the negative in front of it, so I'm at negative 3 minus 9 is negative 12. Yes. Okay, so again, you're going to just turn in the tables of values, okay?